The United States makes the UN work when it wants it to work. And that is exactly the way it should be, because the only question to the United States is what's in our national interest.
My name is John, and the International Criminal Court is now in session. It is December 9th, 2024, and it is now official. BASHAR Al-Assad has fallen. On December 8th, 2024, which was yesterday, militants belonging to the Southern Operations Room and the new Syrian Free Army, which was headquartered in the El Tanf area, which is bordering Iraq, along with basically being aligned with U.S. forces, have all begun the final march towards Damascus itself. And as you expected, there was no resistance. The city of Damascus, its suburbs, its airport, all of its air bases, and the presidential palace itself all fell easily without a fight. Bashar al-Assad himself quickly fled to Damascus International Airport, hopped on a private jet, and flew to Russia. And according to the Russian state media itself, he landed safely in Moscow, which is where I'm expecting him to live out the rest of his life in. President Assad's days as the ruler of Syria after 24 years has come to a close. And who would have thought that this was possible only 4 years ago, right? Because at that time, I thought for a certainty that he was going to win this war. But oh my, was I wrong. Really wrong. I literally cannot believe it. I'm literally shocked. He was so close to winning. And then just like that, within the course of 10 days or so, his government collapses. Just like that. And also, the city of Homs, which is the main gateway to the Mediterranean coast, has also fallen without a fight. Guys belonging to the Turkestan Islamic Party and Al-Nusra Front, or Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, have easily taken the cities of Latakia and Tartus without any sort of resistance whatsoever. And as far as I know, it appears that the Russian military is evacuating everybody from both of their bases at Huminium and also from Tartus. Now, at this time, it appears that the Russians are still in both cities, at their ports, but many believe that it is likely that they're going to withdraw from Syria. Now, just to also give my overall, genuine thoughts on everything, again, this is so unreal. I never imagined it would get to this point. I swear, I didn't think it was possible. But guess what? It has happened. Many people seem to be happy about it, and congratulations to them. Even though I strongly disagreed with those people back in the day, I really wish them the best. I hope that this works out in the end, and that they're going to prove people like me wrong, and that they're able to establish a stable, secular country where everybody is welcome to live in. Now, getting to talk about the fall of Syria itself, just how it all unfolded. The fact that Bashar al-Assad broke one of his early promises during the early phase of the war, he literally told Russia Today, which is Russia's state-run internationally, I guess, like, viewed news network or something. He literally promised to a person who interviewed him that he would die in Syria. Like, he would live and die in Syria. When she asked him, where would you go if not Syria? And he said, to Syria. He lied. He fled the country. Like a coward. He did not want to face the consequences of his rule. He just fled with his family, with his wife, kids, brother, you name it. They're all gone now. Everybody has left Syria. They're either in Moscow or they're in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. The fact that, again, that he fled the country, and the fact that he literally, like, just the way all of this happened, it reminds me way too much of how Afghanistan unfolded. Way too much. But the funny thing about all this, or most insane thing about all of this, is that it happened in a much quicker way. Like, Afghanistan took an entire month to fall to the Taliban. Syria only took 10 to 11 days for it to fall to the Islamist. Just 1 week and 3 to 4 days. That's all it took for them. And now the country, for the very first time in 54 years, and maybe count like an additional 6 or 7 years or so. I don't know when the Ba'athist regime came to power. I think it was 1963, around the time when Kennedy was still alive, like right before he was assassinated. This is the first time that Syria is not under a Ba'athist government or Arab socialist government. Neither. And this is also going to be probably the first time that they're going to be flying the green, white, black, and 3 red star flag for the first time since, I guess, the early 1960s as well. I mean, a lot of Syrians have been awaiting this moment for quite some time now. A lot of them, as you would expect, because they were mostly Sunni Muslims, didn't like President Assad. He was an Alawite, like a Shia Muslim. He has been accused of all sorts of crimes against his population, and also has apparently, allegedly, embezzled a lot of money, I guess, and also lived in a big, fancy, schmancy palace while the rest of his people, I guess, suffered or something. I don't know. I mean, he's been accused of all sorts of shit. But rather you like him or hate him, President Assad did keep the peace for at least, 11 years or so before the war itself actually broke out. Syria was relatively safe until, as you know, the uprising started, and then people tried to overthrow him. And by 2020, 9 years later into the conflict, it looked like he was going to actually win the war. Idlib was literally on the cusp of being completely retaken by the Syrian army. Aleppo had been cleared. The rebels in Syria literally had no major population centers left. None. So I thought that the end was near for them. But what I think happened over the course of the next 4 years was, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people swept it under the rug, and I'll admit I was one of those people, to be honest. But now that everything has happened, we can now have a proper autopsy of what had happened to the Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad. Now, first of all, a lot of people are going to think that President Assad's fall was because Russia was too committed in Ukraine. Literally tied up there. I mean, President Trump and I guess Biden and everyone in the U.S. government believes that Zelensky's claimed number of 600 to 700,000 Russian troops being lost is true. and which in turn would be the cause of Russia's inability to defend Assad. But I would strongly disagree with that. And first of all, there's no concrete proof that Russia lost that many troops. In fact, I think that number is greatly over-exaggerated / inflated. And also, I believe that President Assad's own actions during the last few years or so are why he was in the situation that he ended up being in. So, what happened? Like, what actually happened? Well, first of all, he demobilized the army and didn't really bother building up fortifications or, proper defenses against al-Nusra Front in the Idlib and Aleppo countrysides. He didn't do that. And then the corruption worsened. The Syrian pound continued to inflate like crazy. And then you get allegations of Captagon, which is an illegal drug, by the way, being mass-produced and, distributed worldwide. So it sort of became like a narco state or something. And then, he doesn't even bother trying to negotiate with Turkey. Now, as I've warned people in the past, the only way that President Assad was going to maybe perhaps get back on the world stage or something was if he were to talk things out with Turkey. Turkey was ready to talk. However, the thing, though, was he had to make some concessions. But the guy was too stubborn and egotist to start those talks or negotiations or something like that. He generally thought he won the war, and to be fair, he was very close at that time to winning the whole war. But what he didn't really seem to understand, though, was that he was literally being embargoed to hell. Like, everybody sanctioned him. And it also didn't help that, his biggest allies are also sort of isolated or so because of the actions that they took. Now, as all of you know by now, Iran backs the controversial Hamas in the Gaza Strip and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Both are designated by the United States of America as a terrorist group. Now, whether or not if you agree with those labels or not, well, guess what? That contributed to President Assad's situation. And then, of course, he supported Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Now, again, whether or not if you agree or disagree with him, that was part of the reason why he was in the position that he was in. He basically friended every single enemy of the United States to the point where USA just kept on embargoing him. And even when the Arab League allowed President Assad back into their little organization, it didn't really do shit. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and I guess, Egypt, Jordan, Yemen, etc. Even though, everybody else in that league invited you back in, things weren't really quite what they used to be. But also, if I had to also guess what led to Assad's final downfall, it was a certain moment that, in my opinion, led to his ultimate defeat. Not many people realize this. Maybe a few people do, but this is what I ultimately believed was the ultimate, decisive defeat of President Assad in Syria. On March 5th, 2020, Russia and Turkey signed a deal that would result in the basically demilitarization of the entire Idlib governorate. Literally. The reason why I believe that this agreement decimated Assad in the end was because, for one, he was denied, the agricultural areas of Idlib, But also, another problem was that he had no easy access to the Turkish border. Literally none. He was blocked off from that, which would have given him a gateway to the rest of the world. And also, there was just no easy solution to the whole refugee crisis. But yeah, in retrospective, March 5th, 2020, 4 years ago, was when President Assad had lost. The rebels themselves didn't know it at that time. But now, when I really think about it, that was when Al-Nusra Front won the war. March 5th, 2020. Mark that literally in history. Once Russia signed that deal with Turkey, the war was not only frozen, but allowed these guys to regroup, to basically get supplies from the outside world, because they were literally on the border of Turkey, so they could get as many weapons as they needed, like, I don't know, coordination from the Ukrainians to fight off the Russians, maybe get some advice too from U.S. intelligence, Israeli intelligence, etc. And they took advantage of that. So 4 years later, they launched their big counteroffensive in the direction of Aleppo City, and to their surprise, the Syrian army didn't really put up a fight. And so they took Aleppo. And then from that point on, just like how it was in 2016-17, when the Syrian army itself took Aleppo, the dominoes began to fall. And it was pretty damn easy for them. They literally marched all the way down from Aleppo to Hama to Homs, and then finally to Damascus itself. So yeah. But yeah, as soon as that ceasefire was signed, Al-Nusra Front had won the war. Again, I didn't see it coming. Nobody saw it coming, but it came. They won. Those crazy Islamic fundamentalists had won. It's unbelievable, and I never imagined I'd see this day. I literally grew up watching this war when I was like in both middle and high school, and I thought the rebels had lost by like 2014 or 15. I thought they had been completely defeated. But I never imagined they'd make this comeback. No. I thought they were done for good. But they came back. And now they are the rulers of a country that has a very uncertain future. Its infrastructure is pretty much gone. A lot of buildings are in ruins. The economy is shit. They got to deal with terrorist designations by the United States, Russia, the UN, and I guess China, Iran, you name it. They have a lot of things to really work on. And by the way, just because Bashar al-Assad has fallen does not mean that the war in Syria is over yet. In fact, as of right now, fighters belonging to the Syrian Democratic Forces, or YPG, have already started re-engaging with Turkish-backed Syrian National Army fighters. And as far as I know, these guys are already advancing on the town of Manbij. And if they were to take control of Manbij, basically everything like west of the Euphrates River, at least in the Aleppo governorate, would become theirs. Literally with ease. Now, as far as I know, I think the SDF are going to put up a fight for not just Manbij, but they're going to put up a fight for El Raqqa, for Tapka, Deir ez-Zor, Hasaka, and Kimishli. They're definitely going to put up a fight for those areas. I'm absolutely certain. But in the end, I predict that the Islamic fundamentalist militants of the Syrian opposition are going to come out on top because they have Turkey. The United States right now claims that they're going to stay in Syria even though Assad is gone just to beat ISIS. But truth be told, United States now finally has the excuse to leave Syria. So not only is Bashar al-Assad gone, but they also defeated Iran too. Hezbollah is now cooked without Bashar al-Assad. They're cooked. And with him and Iran gone, like from their borders, they can literally no longer bring in weapons as easily as before, which could lead to a further disintegration of Hezbollah and could lead to other groups in Lebanon taking control of the country, with them being in such disarray. I mean, a lot of their fighters had died. Their big-time leadership is also dead too. There's really nothing left of the so-called axis of resistance. It's essentially dead. And also, by the way, right after the fall of President Assad, Israel has kickstarted an invasion of Syria. And as far as I know, they have already taken control of the town of Bath, which is like the replacement for the destroyed border town of Quneitra. But yeah, they're already advancing on these areas. And as far as I know, at least according to Israel, they want to reestablish areas based on like the 1970s era Purple Line. The Houthis had already called them out on it, but nobody gives a shit. Nobody. But yeah, so far, Quneitra is under Israeli control. And as far as I know, I think they're going to continue advancing. I don't know how far they will advance, but they're definitely going to keep on going until there's literally, I don't know, I guess a reason for them to keep going. But yeah. So, yeah, as far as I know, at least according to the maps down in the, I don't know, on Wikipedia or something, it appears that that Israel, is not only advancing on these areas, but they are, I guess, yeah, I think they're even in Damascus too, if I'm correct. Yeah. So they're advancing in Damascus. Now, eventually, though, I do think they will stop. They're not going to completely take over everything in Syria, so don't worry about that. But I have a good feeling that as soon as things begin to stabilize, I mean, the whole country is in total chaos right now after the fall of al-Assad, they'll then maybe try to resist the Israeli takeover of these areas in Quneitra Governorate. Or perhaps they'll try to make all, like, kumbaya with them. I mean, a lot of people have accused the leader of al-Nusra Front and al-Jalani of being tools of Israel. Like, being total Zionist puppets. Now, are they going to try to make peace with Israel, or are they going to debunk the Zionist allegations being made against them and attack Israel itself and the Golan Heights? Time will tell. But yes, folks, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has fallen. His government is gone. They no longer exist. And as far as I know, we might be seeing the Islamic Emirate of Syria very soon. Now, as for Russia, because as all of you know by now, my main series of videos is on the Russo-Ukrainian War, or Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Where will Russia go from here, now that they've lost Syria? Well, if they get kicked out from the bases, the good news for Russia is they do have alternatives on the Mediterranean Sea. The first place that they can go is Libya. They got an ally in Khalifa Haftar. I mean, like, so far, Libya has been a relatively uncertain yet stable status quo for the last, 4 years or so since their own ceasefire took place. Maybe they can establish a base or so in Tobruk or the city of Benghazi. Or they can establish maybe a base in Tunisia, because this government, as far as I know, is friendly towards Russia. or they can establish one in Algiers, like in Algeria. Algeria, as all of you know by now, is pretty friendly towards Russia, along with Khalifa Haftar in Libya, who controls the eastern chunk of the country. Then there's Sudan. This is going to be a very interesting one to watch, because apparently Russia has been sort of torn apart on who they should support within Sudan. Like, there have been conflicting reports on who they're backing. Either the military junta led by General Burhan or Hemeti, like Mohammed Dagalo. There's a lot of conflicting reports on who Russia actually supports in Sudan, but if I were them, after seeing the stuff I've seen so far coming out of Sudan, I think they should back the military junta. The RSF militias seem pretty crazy, and a lot of the international community has condemned them. They're being sanctioned to hell. I just don't think backing the militias are a good idea. So yeah, they should back the junta instead. Now, are they going to open something in Yemen? Hell no. It's way too far. And also, you sort of got to get past Israel, I guess. And you also got to get permission from Egypt too, and Saudi Arabia, to get past these waters in the Red Sea. I mean, or also the Gulf of Suez. But yeah, they got to get permission to get past these areas in order to get to, like, I don't know, Sudan, to Yemen. I mean, they can definitely maybe get something in Somaliland, because Ethiopia has basically turned Somaliland into a Klein state of theirs. And Ethiopia, by the way, is one of the friendlier pro-Russia governments in Africa. So yeah, keep that in mind. But yeah, even though Syria is lost, Russia will survive, even though a lot of Ukraine fanboys assume that this is the beginning of the end for Russia. But I strongly disagree. When you have a country whose economy is, like, literally in tatters, along with basically everything within the country being destroyed, along with an entire population, for the most part, like, sort of hating you, and then you got your own army that doesn't want to fight and die for you, it's no wonder why Bashar al-Assad lost the war in Syria. The people in literally in this country had lost the will to keep going, and they just didn't think he was the man anymore. If anything, it really was his time to go. And he himself knew it, which is why he left. And so, we come to the end of the Syria saga for now. Now, even though Assad is gone, the war in Syria is not over, as I said earlier, okay? I'm still going to do updates on Syria when there is something to update about. Maybe I will talk about the invasion by Israel. Maybe I'll talk about possible infighting between the opposition armed groups. Maybe I'll talk about them going after the SDF/YPG. I'll let you all guys know. But until next time, I'll see you all later. Have a great day. Peace out.